Fáilte mór chuig gach duine go scoil náisiúnta bhaile Guibh. You're all very welcome to Ballyduff National School's first DVD production. 6th class have worked on a short presentation tracking our school and our parish through time, which marks the official opening of our new extension in 2008. We hope you enjoy it.
Nearly 200 years ago, the parish of Ballyduff took a giant leap forward when Father Michael Rourke built our church, which replaced the thatched church beside our school. A decade later, Father Rourke was responsible for establishing Ballyduff's first national school.
At the time, Ballyduff had many head schools. This one in Shanbally was run by Michael Power from his own house. We even have a drawing of what it looked like. A boy who attended the head school in 1840 drew this as an old man living in Boston, to where he had emigrated to after the Great Famine of the 1840s.
Father Michael Rourke applied to the newly created Commissioners for National Education in August 1835 for assistance in building Ballyduff's first national school. School started at 8 in the morning and only closed with the fading winter sun at 5 in the evening. In his application, Father Rourke wrote the following more than 170 years ago.
The sum of money paid for the building of the schoolhouse amounted to £131, 16 shillings and no pence, only as I got a number of people to bestow their labour for so useful an undertaking.
1880s, school inspectors visiting Ballyduff continually reported on the poor condition of the school building. The inspector's observation book of the time contains the following entry for February 1889.
A new schoolhouse will be built during the coming summer.
A year later, on the 12th of March, Mr. Strong, the district inspector, was able to report that
this is a very satisfactorily taught boys' school. Failures are few in all subjects and the work shows both matter and form. A little more attention should be given to explanation and repetition of poetry. Discipline is firm and moral tone is excellent. The school buildings are new, large and comfortable and reflect great credit upon the energy and public spirit of the manager.
To mark the occasion of the opening of the new school, this photograph was taken. Walter Perry was the principal teacher at the time. Ballyduff incidentally had a male school and a female school. Children were taught separately at that time. 20 years later, Walter was still teaching in Ballyduff. The young man to his right was his assistant, Ambrose Mathers, affectionately known as Amby, whose great-grandchildren attended school here in the 1990s.
As Europe went to war in 1939, the following year Ballyduff had photos taken of the entire school population, girls on their own and surprisingly boys on their own as well. These were the war years and times were very tough. The hobnail boots worn by the infants in the front row is testament to this. The photographs are dated April 1940 and we would like to thank Joan Alsbury for supplying the girl's photo in such pristine condition. Given it is over 70 years old, she is also in the photo. In the back row we have Mary Welch from Ardingloan still living in the parish, together with Sis the Castle Pair. We think Peggy O'Shea Ballyduff Hill is sitting in the front row as a junior infant.
The boy's photograph has Tom Chasty from Lockadary, known countrywide as the Iron Man from Ballyduff. Eugene Power, Ballyduff and Jamesy Power, Blacknock are also in this photo. Jamesy came to our school last year to tell us about his school days nearly 70 years ago. In this video clip he tells us what children used to bring to school in winter to heat the classroom.
You would be lucky to have a fire in the room, and it would be on a wall, maybe a long wall at the side, and like a normal fireplace in a house, but it would be a massive big room. They would use turf or we used to call it kindling, which was just sticks and keep the fire going. The pupils then in the winter time when timber was really scarce, they had to take either lumps of turf or coal or sticks to light the fire, and they would take them with them on their way.
This year, the official opening of our newly extended school was a great occasion. Another great occasion almost 50 years ago was Waterford's historic victory over Kilkenny in a replay of the All-Ireland hurling final. Our own Tom Chasey scored 2 goals on that day, the 4th of October 1959, and secured a place in hurling history for himself, his club and for his county.
Can nobody stop Tom Chasey? This shot of his is saved, but rushing in he connects again to crash Waterford into the lead. 2 minutes later, the dynamic Tom sent over the bar again, but the referee had already whistled for a free, from which Frank Walsh, although failing to lift the ball, duly scored a point. But here's that man again. Frank Walsh scores his 6th point of the day.
Collar came to Ballyduff in 1959. That was only 2 years after electricity had arrived. Tom came back to school shortly after the All-Ireland victory. We are very fortunate to have this colour photo of that special day. Imagine the undeveloped roll of film had to be sent to London to be printed in colour. Even 6-year-olds wanted their photo taken with the Liam McCarthy Cup.
We have delved deeply into the video vault for this piece of footage of a 1960s confirmation in Portlaw. Watch out for Mr. Craig, the school principal at the time, who seemed to be a little camera shy.
It seems nearly everyone wore hats back then. They must have had good summers.
In the late 50s, 2 Kerry teachers arrived in Ballyduff, Miss Kidney and Miss Moriarty, better known as Mrs. Tobin and Mrs. Foran. They brought with them a love of music, and over many years, Ballyduff National School was involved in musicals and plays.
This particular photo is of Mrs. Tobin and Miss Foran's classes squeezed together for another photo opportunity. Can you recognise Tom Whelan, Cranehire, at the edge of the seats, and Miss Mary Weldon, Johnstown, just in front of Elizabeth Conley in the bumblebee jumper from Knockadary Lake? In 1966, Mr. Cray retired and Mr. Randall McCarthy came to us from the Beara Peninsula via Walsh Island in County Offaly. His expertise and enthusiasm for Gaelic football ensured that Ballyduff reigned supreme in the late 60s and early 70s and won several county titles at primary school level.
Ballyduff School building by the 1960s had served its purpose for nearly a century. Mr. McCarthy put his energies into securing funding for a new school building. After nearly a decade, the school on the present site opened its doors on the day before St. Patrick's Day, 1973, at a cost of £45,000. It had 5 classrooms and a general purpose room. However, only 4 classrooms were necessary. Such was the scale of our new school.
Here are a number of class photos taken in the mid-70s. You may be able to spot some familiar faces.
At county level, Ballyduff GA won the county hurling final in 1983, and some of the team visited our school to celebrate the occasion. That same year, Paddy Buggy, president of the GA, also paid a visit to Ballyduff.
New teachers arrived in Ballyduff in the 70s. Mr. Pat Flynn, followed by Mr. Declan Comerford, who both shared a love of hurling, and this brought Ballyduff into many finals and epic encounters.
none better than the Maloney Cup and Dunhill 7-a-side tournament, which had record numbers of spectators.
Mrs. Mary Brennan and Mr. John Carey arrived in the early 80s. Class sizes may have been larger, but they did take a pretty photo. Sponsorship of new books for our school involved a young writers competition.
By the early 90s, when this aerial photo of the school was taken, the lack of a physical improvement was overdue. However, between nativity plays and participation in every available sport, Ballyduff prospered.
Jack Hendy, county hurler and fellow soccer players, represented Munster in the Mars 5-a-side finals in 1994. Miss Pamela Murphy took over when Mr. McCarthy retired in 1995 and brought her own enthusiasm and energy to Ballyduff, having come here to school herself.
The Kelly family in Amber Hill supplied 4 great camogie players for our very successful teams, a first perhaps only after the Larkins in Blacknock. In case you didn't know, Ballyduff was green decades ago when we were planting trees around the school grounds.
Following photos illustrate the variety of activities we were involved in. Visits to Newcastle medieval church and graveyard with its rare 18th century headstones. School fundraising cake sales. Making those Christmas logs. Trips to ice skating in Dublin. Dancing classes with Chantal and Gary.
When Mrs. Foran retired in the late 90s after 40 years of outstanding service, she left as her legacy an annual Tim Whistle scholarship. Miss Lorna Ryan and Miss Deirdre Bates joined our staff in the mid to late 90s. Recently, Miss Ryan received the President's Award whilst Miss Bates lines out with our Gaelic footballers.
Ballyduff was the first primary school in the city or county to launch their school website in 1998, and between token collecting and being awarded the county's IT Magnet School, we have been very busy. By 2004, Ballyduff was representing County Waterford at an IT training session at Guinness's Digital Hub in Dublin.
The new millennium brought a new principal to Ballyduff, Miss Manula Power. Ballyduff broke onto the international stage with Mrs. Brennan's and Miss Power's dedication. Both worked on developing a link with a Japanese school, Shiogama. Pupils and teachers visited from Ireland and from Japan, and our president Mary McAleese was met in Tokyo on the following year saw Mr. Killian O'Reilly accompany Laura Dempsey and Megan Harrington as they travelled to Shiogama. A few months later, Mr. Kimura, together with Sasha and Eureka, arrived on our doorstep, and life was never the same again.
Ballyduff has witnessed a resurgence at underage GAA. New talent and new energy at juvenile level has led to a resurgence in hurling, and our school has reaped the benefits. Yes, the Duffs are back.
ever under the watchful eyes of Father O'Byrne.
Halloween fancy dress, cake sales and drama at Squelga. An average day in school.
She on ada, agus is brolum an tail jassator. Ní macha mé curbe, tá mé gesúla Colleen. Tá mugra gráda freshen, bín sé a goni a mahula, ní féidir an mother be echoil.
The new millennium also brought an awareness of global warming, and Ballyduff took time out to investigate our two newly built wind turbines at Ballyduff.
All of Ballyduff is proud of Sean O'Brien's national success in swimming, winning both Munster and national medals. Shauna has been shortlisted for the 2012 Olympics in London.
Ballyduff took up the challenge of gaining a green flag, symbolising commitment to improving the school's physical environment and becoming more green and planet friendly. This year we were awarded our green flag, caught on video by our senior pupils. Mr. McCarthy, together with Miss Murphy, set the seeds that eventually led to a total redesign and extension of our school. Miss Power brought this project to a hugely successful conclusion this year. What a transformation.
As part of the build, the pupils worked with an artist, Eileen Singleton, to explore, design and create the flora of Ballyduff on ceramic tiles. On Friday the 3rd of October we had our official opening, and the rest is literally history. Our patron, Very Reverend Bishop William Lee, officially opened our new extension with the able assistance of Minister Martin Cullen. Past teachers, past pupils, parents and present day pupils all shared a very memorable day.